Perfect. Hi, good afternoon or morning or evening for you. This is James Mansfield here, and joined with Tyler Roth. Very exciting topic today on technology modernization of government and NGO, which is non-government organization health services. So we'll talk through a couple examples of that through the call here. We're hosting this with Data Prime, as well as with Analytics for Living, where we apply machine learning and AI to improve health innovation, technology growth, and financial services. So happy to be here today. It's great. So quick agenda and recap. It'll be about 25 minutes total. The objective, we're going to review and discuss how Analytics for Living employs machine learning, AI, and reporting analytics to improve technology modernization. First step, the disclosure, right? The opinions of these are the opinions of Analytics for Living and Data Prime, not from any other companies or other clients that we continually work with today. We're going to jump into a quick introduction for Tyler and I. Then we'll talk about kind of what the problem statement is, right? Why is it needed for organizations to modernize their technology? We'll talk about a couple use cases on the cloud environment, services, and then Tyler's going to bring us back about becoming a data scientist and about top talent and recruiting. Perfect. So to jump in then, so I'm James Mansfield, leading Analytics for Living, where, as I said, we apply machine learning and AI to improve health, innovation, technology growth, financial stability, sustainability. Also leading Data Prime's life science division, focused on the AI. And happy to have, I have Melissa. I need to put Tyler in there. My bad.
No worries.
Tyler there. Don't look at Melissa there. And for me, the background is 25 years in life sciences, CPG, consumer packaged goods, financial services, most recently from Merck and GSK. We had a fair bit of experience of helping and assisting this in a few different healthcare divisions in the U.S. and then ex-U.S. in a number of different countries. So, in real time, we could change that real quick here. So we're gonna put take that in here. Thank goodness for here. So why don't you, if you could go for us here, Tyler, that'd be great. Okay, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. My name's Tyler Roth. I'm the lead technical recruiter at Data Prime, and we are a artificial intelligence company that we have interactive platform to connect executive recruiters with potential employers focused on data professionals and technology based professions.
That's great. Great. Yeah. Way to switch it up there. Thanks, Tyler.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. So thank you. And happy to have Tyler here to share kind of where we can bridge the gap between talent, and technology too as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the topic that we're here, exciting, is around government and non-government organization health services, right? So what's the problem statement, right? Why are we talking about this? And if you picture yourself that you have, on the left side of the screen, you'll see people like, hey, help me, right? I need healthcare. On the right, you have kind of the healthcare team trying to figure out, okay, how do we, meet the needs of patients, populations, right? Public health and so forth. So the first bullet really is there's a gap that's separating scientific advances and technology needs, right? You have this great advance in science, right? And then you have these technology needs, but there's somewhat of a gap in terms of trying to bring products to market faster, population health, and a variety of other pieces. So, and why is it required? Well, this new innovation is required for new therapies for patients, and new ways to protect, public health. And the approach that we're going to lay out today is, how can we analyze novel sources of data? So let's say clinical data, prescription data, public health data, right, to apply and enhance regulatory decision making, right, and modernize and enhance to collaborate. So what is a government or an NGO first? Why don't we step there? You may have that question. So government could be like in the U.S., right? We have the FDA, Federal Drug Administration, Health and Human Services, CDC, NIH, right? So we know that there are some RFPs or proposals out to support that, and this is where this would fit. If we look at NGO, right? Well, let's look at the World Health Organization, or even UNICEF, Gavi, some of the vaccines businesses, and ex-US, right? If we look at Mexico, like Secretary Salud, right? COFEPRIS, all these agencies, right, are in the midst of trying to kind of close that gap and support that. And we think we have a great, solution and approach that we've employed in a few other countries and so forth that could particularly, meet this need as well. right? So that's the problem statement, is this gap. Can you quantify it? Yes, you can. We'll go into a little bit of quantifying there, but I think it's all forward looking, right? Let's build the solution and then bring out, the solutions to kind of bring it forward. So what are some of those challenges, right? So we know that healthcare costs, right? Just a little bit more on the problem statement, right? And the healthcare cost, and then the healthcare system may prioritize, particular innovations. But there is this interdependency, right? We have that woman in the pharmacy trying to get her medication, but does she have the money for the cost of this new therapy, right? Is the out-of-pocket cost there? Is she really aware of those pieces? And because of this variety of prioritization and some of the challenges, right, the out-of-pocket cost increased, and then essentially this woman here may not get her medication or product or therapy, and then she may increase those costs. So, as healthcare costs increased, right, there's this mixed prioritization of, okay, which product do we bring to market? Which solution do we have that's best, right? Even GDP, healthcare spending is growing faster than GDP. The healthcare resources are shared across the government and the patients and aid, and there's a mix of both public and private, right? So, but what about life science, right? The technology, I said, well, the technologies continue to grow, right? There's this life science innovation, but it's dependent on healthcare spending and cost. So there's this interdependency, right? You think about new drugs, when they cost to bring a new product to market, it's anywhere from 0.3 billion to 2.8 billion, right? It's a big range, but that's a lot of, expenses to actually bring something, to market, when it does take, significant amount of time. And really, this improvement in health is dependent on these life science innovations. So we have this challenge, back to that problem statement of, from a patient standpoint, right? How do I kind of balance my cost of out of pocket, right? How do I get better health? And then from that system, how do we deliver better health and prioritize kind of what's the most important need? But this gap is back to the gap. It's more of the foundation. Here's the kind of symptoms, but given there's a gap, how can we close that gap? So there's not these symptoms that are here that are occurring. Why do we think machine learning and AI, right, is an opportunity to change? Well, if we start one at the patient, right, as the central piece, right, now we have a different type of pharmacy, right? This is, outside the U.S., kind of, you see, a little bit broken down. Hopefully things don't, turn into that in the future, but I think it's imperative that health system providers, right, number two, think about kind of, how to pay and prioritize those pieces. One approach that we have looked at is, is there's this new opportunity, financial services, right, to kind of bring new innovation to market to both expedite the process, but actually justify kind of that savings that a health system or a country may have based on this new innovative therapy, right? So this kind of interdependent system that we're kind of suggesting that machine and learning and AI can certainly help in this space. All right. So what does it look like, right? So our framework that we feel like is a good solution that's worked is that in modernizing, the technology governed health system, if we think about the delivery, which is here on the top right of, well, if you have government health services solutions, right, how can we develop and prove those use cases, right, to apply, evaluate, and measure the technology modernization? And they could vary, right? They could be, is that woman of out-of-pocket cost? It could be new public health solutions, right? But if you want to get to this kind of sweet spot of this development of use cases, right, what are those steps that need to be taken? So, and the nexus between kind of technology and science, right? So we have these innovative therapies that come to market. Well, how do you kind of manage all the data in real time, receive clinical data? And there's this great thing called the cloud, right, which is a great cloud infrastructure, what enables us to kind of download data. I think COVID is a really great example where we have the JHU data that's on GitHub, right, where the JHU data, John Hopkins data, comes in and analyzes. Well, certainly, a government or non-government health system, goes on the cloud kind of as a step one of, once you identify the data, well, let's put it on the cloud, right? Let's build those technology and analytics solutions using open source tools, right? Analytics for Livings, of course, has some open source tools as well, with Python and analytics tools to kind of build those use cases, right? And just a couple of use cases that we put here. Well, why don't we look at the vaccination rates in children, right? Or COVID vaccination rates, right? Or even fast tracking, new drug applications, or ANDA applications. And then how is there, this opportunity to look at clinical trial data in real time, so that if there's a meeting, an NDA meeting, well, can we post that data on the cloud so we can at least do that and connect it right to the heart of the matter, speed that decision making. And of course, at the end here, before you get to use cases, that monitoring, right? How do we monitor those things that are coming, as well as kind of industry collaboration, right? If we think of industry collaboration, think of all the food products that come into the US that the FDA and the other agencies need to monitor, right? Well, if there's some collaboration with those partners to also put their data on the cloud around kind of when was that food item picked up, when did it get on a ship or a boat or a truck, right? Where is it now, right? Was everything monitored, right? Can we actually see that? So now we're only looking at kind of those risk areas. We're not having to kind of build a story for each piece. So certainly this infrastructure and this approach is one that we feel definitely has some great merit. And we have implemented that in a few other countries to actually solve for these pieces. And also getting out of the laptop, but putting those insights on the phone, right? Because a lot of those people are kind of in real world, kind of on the ground, kind of trying to understand. So this is certainly a great place, to have those individuals to kind of, find those as well. So what does it look like? I guess is the next piece. And here's an illustrative use case, right? Meaning machine learning, right? So we talked about on the left the problem statement, right, where the gap separates the scientific advances technology needs, right? There's new therapies that are needed. We analyze those, variety of different data. But then here on the data analytics, right, how can we pull in a variety of different data? So IQVIA is one great data source on prescription data. The electronic medical records is another source of the cloud environment, right? Health Verity is a great source to kind of see that in real time. I mean, right now it typically does take, roughly about a month or a couple of weeks to kind of report out procedures and diagnosis, but it is available electronically. So can we, back to that collaboration, can we collaborate with those health systems to actually see those data as well, including surveillance data, clinical evidence, and then develop trends and a variety of different risk scores. So the point of why I wanted to pose and just look at these variety of different data sets is it's not just one and two, three, four, five, six, it may be 10, 20 different types of data. Right? And that's why machine learning and AI is really important, because we can utilize these tools to develop algorithms, understand those key features, and then for AI tools, we'll be built on those features to kind of get to those outputs, right, that we have. So on the right is an illustrative output of, let's say that there's different types of COVID testing or different food being shipped. Well, we can put a map to say kind of where are those happening. And then from the bottom right is that healthcare provider says, hey, we're doing a better job here on metrics, both from the patient and the healthcare provider, to kind of to try to answer those questions and address some of those needs as well. But as I said before, it does come back to these kind of key steps. Certainly it's not just the most advanced organization, but it's many that could can benefit from those solutions. One other case study here that I'll share about use case, and this is in where if we have, say, a government healthcare system that actually is driving, that has a significant patient population, but they can't afford this new innovation to kind of save their lives or to keep those out of the hospital. So we see this blue kind of illustrative example here of patients getting more and more sick over time and the healthcare cost increasing, but how can they justify this investment? So the one approach that we see through machine learning is that it can actually track those patients and learn from those patients about, okay, well, they took the therapy, they didn't go to the hospital. What were those cost savings, right? How did that decrease that overall burden of illness and cost? How do you fund that? Well, I think that's where that interdependency of financial services is a great place, because the interdependency of financial services can at least come in and support via loan, and then the savings could pay back the loan. So I think this is kind of a good concept, future thinking concept, but it's a great illustrative example here of how machine learning and AI could really apply and help for those as well. So I just had some pieces that are there. So right back to what we're discussing here, which is what are the how can it be employed, right, by government and NGO. So the first case I think is where we want to see is use cases, right? And I mentioned a handful of those as we went through, but there's certainly the output would be, besides the use cases, it would be understanding those key performance indicators. Let's look at NDAs, right? Are there an increase in the NDAs kind of using this process or another process, right? Is there, if there's a new innovative therapy or monitoring system for food, for instance, if that goes on the cloud, can it cut the time to decision making, so you don't affect patients, right? I'm sure we've seen those television warnings on watch out for salad or watch out for whatever this food would be. Well, could this at least avert some of those, and that's where we're talking about those key performance indicators, right, of quality of measurements that really make it real world on how to kind of decrease that risk for patients and the population and so forth. And the pictorial on the right there really illustrate how machine learning and AI can help kind of put your fingertips kind of on those pieces as well. So good. So I think that was some of the key topics that we had here around the how to apply machine learning and artificial intelligence for these. So for analytics for living, right, our vision is to enable and enable analytics for life around helping improve health for patients, right? That's our key mission. We offer both proprietary and syndicated products as well as open source, right? Subscription sources in these pieces. So it's not a matter of just saying, hey, we need to do a project, but we have kind of syndicated solutions around a variety of different data that we have on our platform that's there and available. So I'll turn it over to Tyler if you wanted to jump in here on a little bit more about Data Prime.
Okay, thanks, James. So here at Data Prime, we bridge the gap between top talent and scalable solutions and cutting edge data science practices. So we have a platform that allows us to match candidates with the particular jobs that they're really looking for based off of their skills and their expertise instead of just, keyword matching. So it really dives deep into what they can accomplish. We're a full cycle partner. So our, what else can I say? We have a team of in-house data scientists, experts providing assessment services, and we also have full cycle recruiting partners. So at Data Prime, we believe that data science really enables organizations to identify patterns and trends to make business decisions while minimizing risks. And without the expertise of data professionals, big data really is nothing. So I mean, I can go into a lot of facts about data science.
Sure.
I don't want to bore anybody, but I really do think, like, here's a fun fact about healthcare. So last year, McKinsey estimated that big data initiatives in the U.S. healthcare systems could account for $300 billion to $450 billion in reduced healthcare spending, or 12 to 17% of the 2.6 trillion baseline in U.S. healthcare costs. On the other hand, bad data, like hey, don't eat lettuce today, don't eat eggs tomorrow, that cost the U.S. roughly 3.1 trillion a year. So it's becoming very clear that there's enormous value in data processing and analysis, and that's where our data scientists can step in. So
that's great. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. And what's some of those trends, I guess, from an employer standpoint? It's great that we are partnering, and I think it's a great synergy of kind of tools, right, of analytics tools around machine learning, AI, the Data Prime, and analytics for living provide, and then the nexus of talent, right? So what are some of those challenges, say, if a company needed to, or a government needed to kind of say, hey, we need staff, right? Where does Data Prime kind of fit for that? Because you mentioned the professional recruiting here on the side as a service.
Yes. So we have two different verticals of the company. So we have our services team, where we can really come in and essentially have a tiger team that come in and help you with a project base. So they can come in and help you with if you just want a project, you don't want to deal with the overhead, we can step in and do that. Or we have our professional recruiting side. So if someone says, hey, it could be federal, it can be non-federal, executive, whatever it may be, hey, we really need to fill this position, they contact us, and then we will help them from beginning to end, from writing the job description, really nailing down what exactly you want this person to do. Because initially, it might be a combination of talents that you're really looking for, and we can definitely be your partner and walk you through that and find you the best candidate for the job that they will be performing to get to your company to the next level.
That's great. Awesome. Fantastic. Great synergy here, for this and great opportunity. So thanks, Tyler. That's excellent. So, yep. And thank you for joining today as well. I encourage you to kind of take a peek at some of the other solutions that we have this week. We were doing actually a re-review of this, some of the challenges around improving immunizations for women and children. So there is a webinar that we have on that piece. Also, children's preventable diseases, I think is next week, right, around RSV and others. COVID mental health, a lot of discussions from last week. We're going to have another session of this tomorrow, so I welcome you to attend. And then also, mental health issues where, it was Mental Health Month that we had previously last month in June. So there's a few other topics that we're going to bring forward, such as PTSD and then teen suicide as well later this week. And if you missed the Alzheimer's or multiple sclerosis, right, we will do that probably in about 2 weeks from now, but we do have that on our website where you can take a look at the video. Real great topic. And and this is where we were, right? We finished off back at the modernizing technology of government, non-government health services. So thanks all for joining today. I appreciate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Tyler and I. Our contact is kind of on the link on the media request. And then you can certainly send us an email. We can have a great conversation. So thanks. Anything else, Tyler, for you?
No, that's all. Thanks, James.
Okay. Great. Thank you.